Hello, everyone. I am so excited to talk to you about something that we all deal with, but that we rarely talk about improving, and that's our one on one meetings. So, quick question. How many of you have had a one on one meeting canceled in the last month? That's pretty common. Studies show that 1 in 5 one on ones get canceled regularly. And when they do happen, they can feel, well, kind of awkward or pointless. Have you been there? I have definitely been there. I used to dread my weekly one on ones because they often turned into these robotic status updates where we just go through task lists, things that we sometimes had gone through in our group sessions. So that's not exactly inspiring. And not that work needs to be inspiring every day, but for something that you do routinely and you're spending a lot of time with, it should have some intention. You should leave feeling supported or like there's resources being shared and you're moving forward, not just like you ticked a box off of your long to-do list. Here's the thing. Employees actually want more one-on-one meeting time with their managers. Yes, that is right. Those meetings, when they're done right, they build trust and engagement. And when we are engaged at work, guess what? We do our best work. The problem isn't one-on-one meetings themselves. I don't want to pick on one-on-ones. The problem is how we approach them. Today, I'm going to share a simple framework that transformed my own one-on-ones from an awkward check-in to conversations that were intentional and energized both me and my team members. It's called the Latte Method. Now, if you listen to this podcast on a regular basis, you know the Latte Method. It's from my book, Don't Leave Money on the Table, Negotiation Strategies. And if you're new to the pod, don't worry. I'm going to tell you how you can apply this to your one-on-one meetings. Now, the Latte Method doesn't involve buying coffee for your team, although buying me coffee has never hurt. But before we dive in, I want you to take a moment and jot down 2 things. The first is one thing that went well in your last one-on-one. The second thing I want you to jot down is one thing you wish could have gone better. And that is what we're going to do. We're going to improve how these one-on-ones happen. So if you're wondering what exactly is Latte, Jacqueline, it stands for look, anticipate, think, talk, and evaluate. These 5 simple steps can completely change how your conversations flow. Now, this approach is something I developed many years ago. I noticed that the best leaders bring intention to every conversation instead of winging it. They have a mental roadmap that helps them cover what matters. If I were to break it down a little bit further, I give you what each letter means in real world terms. Actually, let me do that. L is for look. This is where you start by noticing what's going well. Instead of diving straight into problems or tasks, you can take a moment in the beginning of your meeting to acknowledge something positive. Don't start with what's missing. Start with what's going well. What are you celebrating? The A in Latte is for anticipate. This is where you look ahead together. What are the opportunities that might be coming? What are the roadblocks? What's keeping your team member up at night? Start getting ahead of challenges so that you can stop the reactionary cycle. I know this is something I used to struggle with in one-on-ones. We constantly be putting out fires. T is for think. Now, this is about big picture goals. What does success actually look like? Now, I love this step because it connects day-to-day work with meaningful outcomes. It answers the why behind all of the what's that we deal with every day for work. So what does success look like for you? And how can you start bringing that into your one-on-ones? Let's move forward. The second T is for talk. This is where you discuss support. Who needs to be involved? How can you help this step? Talk is about helping to bring the resources together without taking over. E is for evaluate. Now, I don't know why, I just felt like that was a nursery school rhyme, but it definitely had a little bop. This final step is about learning. What lessons can we take forward? This turns even setbacks into stepping stones. So let me share a quick before and after example from my own life. Before using the Latte framework for one-on-ones, I used to sound something like this, and I'm just going to give you a 2-part role play here. I would start the meeting with, hey, how's that project going? The team member would reply, it's fine, working through it. Then I'd say, okay, well, let me know if you need anything. And that's it. The meeting would end early with little value gained for each of us. I was really wasting our times in the one-on-one because we weren't getting to what was valuable. So let me tell you what happened after implementing Latte. The same conversation transformed into something like this. I'd start with, what's something you're proud of accomplishing this week? And I let the team members speak. And I would hear things like, well, I actually solved that problem in the database that was slowing down our reports. To which I could say, great, how did you solve that? What was the kink or the bottleneck? And we'd have a more valuable discussion. I could even go deeper and say, well, what opportunities or obstacles do you see coming up this week? And if they started with the obstacle, I would hear them and then switch over to, okay, do you see any opportunities coming up in the next week? Now, if you notice the difference between before using Latte for one-on-ones and after, the latter, the conversation builds momentum and engagement. One felt like checking a box, the other one felt like a meaningful exchange. So let's get into it. I want to get practical with you and share 5 quick key questions, one for each letter of Latte, that you can use in your next one-on-one. For look, try asking something like, what's something you're proud of since we last spoke? I used this with my team member, Sam, a few months ago, and instead of our usual, how's it going, small talk, I asked what she was proud of. Y'all, her face lit up as she told me about solving a tricky customer issue that had been bounced between group to group. Now, I learned something new about her problem-solving skills that might have never come up had I not asked that question. When our brains start with a win, it actually releases feel-good chemicals that make the rest of the conversation feel more productive. It's not about being nice also. It's about neuroscience. And we can do a whole neuroscience, let's get nerdy session later. For anticipate, you can ask, what challenges do you see coming up? This question is magic because it shifts the conversation from being reactive to proactive. In one of my meetings, one-on-ones, I was working with a team member, and this question revealed that he was concerned about a deadline conflict that I had not spotted yet. We had 2 weeks to solve it, and instead of discovering it the day before, we discovered it weeks ahead. That's a huge win. For think, you can try a question like this. What does success look like for you this month? You want to be specific. I love this question because it puts the team member in the driver's seat. When I asked a team member this question a few months back, she shared that success for her wasn't just completing the project, but getting to mentor a junior team member. And I thought that was really insightful because I didn't know that she had a passion for mentoring her peers. I also would not have known that it mattered to her without asking the question. I didn't box her in. I asked an open-ended question that she could expand upon, which allowed me to learn how I can further support her goals to be a mentor to peers at work. And y'all, I really love that because I could support both of her goals moving forward. Going into talk, one of the questions that I like is, who do you need support from and how can I help? Sometimes folks don't want to bother their supervisor, and so they don't share who they need support from. This question can unlock a lot of possibilities for your team. This is where you become a door opener rather than just a problem solver. When I asked someone this question, I distinctly remember him saying he needed my help directly. I expected him to say that. What he said informed me that he needed support from the design team. And I was able to facilitate that. It was super easy. Sometimes the best support isn't connecting the dots. Let me rephrase that. Sometimes the best support is connecting the dots, not doing the work yourself. Finally, we come to evaluate. Now, the question I like to use in this part of Latte is, what have you learned recently that we can apply going forward? This question transforms mistakes from something to hide into valuable insights. In my team, this question revealed that our longest serving member had discovered a shortcut in our CRM that nobody else knew about. Now, the whole team uses it and it saves us hours each week. Notice how different these questions feel. from the usual any updates or how's anything going. They're specific, they're forward looking, and they're focused on growth. So now you might be wondering how you can adopt these for different situations. And if you are, I got you covered. If you're doing remote one-on-ones, keep your cameras on if possible to catch those nonverbal cues. For newer team members, you might spot them more on the talk section, figuring out what support they need. With more senior folks, you can lean in heavier to the think piece and evaluate discussing strategic goals and lessons learned. And yes, this approach even works for difficult conversations. If you need to address a performance issue, still start with look. Find something that is working before diving into the problems. My tip here is be direct but supportive about the consequences during anticipate, and focus on specific resources or coaching that's needed during the talk. And with the clear next steps and accountability. The Latte framework actually makes tough conversations easier because it provides structure and keeps things respectful. So I want to round out the 7-question framework. We've covered the 5 latte questions, but there are 2 more questions that I found really round out an effective one-on-one. Think of these as your cherry on top of the latte, okay? The 6th question focuses on accountability. What progress have you made on your goals since our last meeting? Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a gotcha question, but it's all in how you ask it. I like to frame it as celebrating the momentum. So something like this might be more my style. Hey, last time you mentioned you wanted to work on that client presentation. How's that coming along? So let me tell you how this played out in my team. I used to avoid following up on previous commitments because I didn't want to seem like I was micromanaging. But then things would fall through the cracks and we both end up frustrated. And when I started gently checking in on progress, something interesting happened. My team actually felt appreciated. And they appreciated the question. They saw that I was keeping track of what mattered to them. For example, when a team member mentioned that he wanted to improve his public speaking skills, I noted it. And in our next meeting, I simply asked, how's that Toastmaster group that you were considering? He hadn't had time to look into it yet, but the question itself showed him that I cared about his development and goals and reminded him that this was still a priority. The 7th and final question is the open floor. Okay, I really like the open floor question. I almost said open door. It's the open floor question. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss? And this might seem basic, but it actually is a powerful question. Sometimes the most important thing on someone else's mind doesn't fit into our neat categories. By explicitly creating space for it, you show that you're truly there to listen. I'll never forget when I asked this question to a person who had been pretty quiet throughout our meeting. After a moment of hesitation, she shared that she was struggling with a difficult client and she wasn't sure how to handle it. This was a crucial issue that might have gone unaddressed without that final open floor question. So, if you work with a team member and you come from different cultural backgrounds, you might need to adopt your approach a little bit with this, okay? In some cultures, direct questions about challenges might feel uncomfortable without building more of a rapport. So this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It's a foundation, and you need to tweak it to be flexible so that you can adjust to what works best for each of your team members. Adjust the wording of these questions that I've shared with you. That's the essence of making Latte work for you. Now, what matters most is that you're covering all of these areas: celebrating wins, addressing challenges, identifying opportunities, defining success, offering support, learning from experience, maintaining accountability, and opening the floor. Together, these 7 questions, they can transform your one-on-one meetings from being boring check-ins to meetings that have meaning, and you walk away feeling like that was an intentional conversation. It also drives growth and trust. So let's bring it all together. How does Latte solve these common one-on-one problems that we talked about at the beginning? First, no more aimless meetings where you don't know what to say. With the 7-question approach in your back pocket, you always have a direction. One manager told me that she used to dread the awkward silences in my one-on-ones. Now I actually look forward to the conversations and what the questions actually spark. Second, you will see fewer cancellations. When one-on-ones become valuable two-way conversations rather than boring status updates, both of you will feel like you need to prioritize them. What I noticed for myself from before using Latte and one-on-ones to afterwards, my cancellation rate dropped about 30% to less than 5%. And that's significant. Here's the third thing you'll notice. You will break free from backward-looking traps. Instead of just rehashing what already happened, these questions balance reflecting on the past with planning for the future. You're building momentum, not just reporting on it. And fourth, no more guessing about your team's needs when it comes to providing support. By directly asking about it every time, you create an environment where asking for help becomes normal, not a sign of weakness. And finally, perhaps most importantly, you build trust. When your team sees that you genuinely care about their wins, their challenges, their goals, and their growth, it transforms your work relationship. Now, one of the most meaningful things for me reflecting on implementing Latte into my one-on-ones is that a team member told me once, I used to see our one-on-ones as a chore. Now I feel like you are truly in my corner. And I got emotional because I was always in that team member's corner, but I didn't realize how I was making it feel like a chore by not having that intention. So how will you know if your one-on-ones are improving? Look for these signs. Your meetings actually happen. That's the first tangible thing, right? No more last-minute cancellations. Also, your team members do more talking than you do. So you hear phrases like, I was thinking about what we discussed. And between meetings, you learn something new about your team members in almost every conversation. When tough issues come up, you'll catch them before they become a crisis. Your team is going to see more engaged and connected to you, and you're going to feel more engaged and connected to their work. So as we wrap up, I want you to commit to one small change you'll make in your next one-on-one. Maybe it's starting with a win instead of jumping into status updates, or perhaps it's adding that question about challenges on the horizon. Write it down now, just one thing. What are you going to do? And that's the beauty of this approach. You don't have to overhaul everything at once. I have put together a simple one-page template with all the 7 questions that you can use in your very next meeting. And there's a link below where you can download it. I want you to think of this as your cheat sheet until these questions become second nature to you. And if you really want to make this stick, I have a challenge for you. Try 30-day Latte Challenge. The 30-day Latte Challenge is just simple as this. On week 1, you're focusing on starting with a win. In week 2, you're going to add in the question about upcoming challenges. Week 3, use all 5 of the Latte questions. And by week 4, incorporate all 7 questions we covered today. If you find that you work best in environments with an accountability partner, find a buddy who's with you today, or someone that you usually share your work stuff with, and ask them to be that accountability partner with you. It can make a huge difference. I want you to remember this. Transforming your one-on-ones isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Even implementing just one of these ideas can make your next conversation more meaningful. Also, I want to hear how this works for you, so feel free to reach out and share your success stories or any challenges you run into. Your investment in these conversations is an investment in your team's success and your growth as a leader. So thank you for spending time with me today. Here's to making your next one-on-one your best one yet.